Hello guys, and this is the first part of my Gentoo installation guide. My guide to install the Gentoo operating system, which is my favorite GNU Linux distribution. So yeah, I'm on a Windows machine right now, and yeah, Richard Tolman, please forgive me. But you go to gentoo.org/downloads, and this tutorial is gonna be for AMD 64, aka x86-64, because I got an i5 in this, Intel Core i5, but you can pick any of these pretty much. If you're on anything else than AMD or x86, for example, if you're on ARM 64, then you will have to pick something else or just compile Gentoo and everything using what you got in there. The steps are pretty much the same. They're just a bit different depending on different systems you're going to be compiling this on. And here you have the minimal installation CDs. Basically, they're over here and they're only for these two architectures, and they're basically very minimalist installations of Gentoo, kinda, but not even like installations. But you got like a minimal CD, a minimal ISO that you can get into your VM. Because it will just have everything you pretty much need to install the actual Gentoo system. So, yeah, just choose whatever architecture you have, or if you want to follow this tutorial on a different architecture, you can skip this stage, I guess, but you'll have to figure out how to install different things if you don't have them. But, yeah. So, I am on AMD 64. x86 is pretty much the same, but I think I will be going, like, whenever there's something different, I'll just say different, but yeah. So let's get into our virtual machine configuration. Okay, so I got here, yes, I'm on a Windows system. Richard Stallman, please. So I'll be using VirtualBox as my virtual machine. I already have an installation over here, as well as Arch. They're like my two favorite distributions of GNU Linux. I prefer Gentoo because it's like source bases and stuff, and you have more control over it. And I also have a template book and my operating system, but that doesn't matter. So name it whatever you want. I'll just call it tutorial. Choose Linux, of course, and Gentoo 64 bits. I'm gonna give it like something that my PC doesn't die from. Let's say around 4 gigs of RAM. I'm gonna give it a virtual hard drive. That doesn't really matter right now. If you pick fixed size, it's gonna be faster, but I'm gonna go with dynamic now. And it will be pretty minimal, so okay, I'll just go with 620. I guess should be enough to install some stuff, and yeah. So in the system over here, you want to give as much memory as you can. Of course, I'm gonna give it a bit more actually, and give it as much cores as you can. I'm gonna give it 4. Acceleration is gonna be default. A bit more video memory, why not? Over here, we're gonna insert the ISO. Should be okay. So I guess you can change something different if you want. Something different. Well, I know how to do Wi-Fi. So if you're installing the real hardware, of course, if you actually flush this into a USB, which I highly recommend, and actually install it as your main system or on a laptop or something, then usually you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, and I will show how to do this, but right now I'm just going to be connected to NAT and Ethernet, and that's everything we need. Be sure this page is pretty high. Yeah. So we're now gonna launch it, and yeah. Okay, so there's gonna be some text saying from what disk you want to launch. I'll just run from the minimal ISO, of course, and it's going. Here you want to press F1. You don't actually have to, but you can see the available kernel. So I recommend doing a memtest86 because it's gonna show you all the info about. You don't really have to do this; it's optional. And on my computer, on my end, it does some weird stuff. So I'm not gonna do it here, but you can try that. And we're gonna boot into the Gentoo kernel. And we're gonna boot into this OpenRC. So we can press, you can do whatever I want. I'll go with 30 because it's a Polish one. I'm Polish, but do whatever pretty much you want. I'm not gonna waste your time. Okay, here we go. Here we go. You've fallen for the meme. You're ready to install Gentoo. So we're gonna erase these piglins. So if you installed ever Arch Linux, you're gonna be familiar with some of the steps. But yeah, okay, so we're gonna start with the Wi-Fi. You can skip over a bit if you're installing a virtual machine like me, or you're just connected to Ethernet. First of all, you want to do IP link, and it's gonna show your internet devices. So I'm actually gonna have this Control-Alt-F2 to open up a different display, Control-Alt-F1 to go back here. If you're on an actual Linux system and installing it in a virtual machine, then it might trigger it on your real machine, but you'll have to work around that. But I'm just gonna open a second display so I can bring it up any time. And I have this IP link, and then you want to touch etc WPA supplicant WPA supplicant, and then you want to give the name of your device. So for me it's ENP0S3. ENP0S3. I have to make sure I typed this right. WPA supplicant, yeah, .conf. So now we're gonna nano into it, or whatever. I'm actually gonna use Vim here. If it's installed. No, it's not in the minimal installation, so I'll have to use VI. But I can use nano, whatever you want. So we have to type in control interface equals run WPA supplicant, and we have to do update underscore config equals 1, and that should be enough. You can quit whatever you want. Be sure to write the changes. I'm gonna just cat it for just to check. Yeah. So now you want to do WPA passphrase, and then you have to give your Wi-Fi name, Wi-Fi password, whatever it is. So I'm just gonna type that in. So you have to give the name of your Wi-Fi. You have to give the password, and you have to do the etc w supplicant WPA supplicant, name of the thing. So for me it's enp0s3.conf. I'm gonna quickly type that in. Oh, also I'm not concerned about the name of it, so I'm not concerned about the password too much either, but I just have to check it and stuff, and it just also doesn't feel comfortable to give any passwords because of my human sense, but yeah. And you don't have to type in these square brackets, of course. Okay, so I'm done. I hope I don't accidentally press the app arrow. But, yeah. Yeah, it was on the back of the router, of course, the classic place to get your password from. So I'm not gonna bore you guys, but yeah. So, you know, if you're like me and don't want your Wi-Fi password to be just kind of standing there inside that file, you might want to delete it. The way you do it is you vi or whatever, nano something, do edcw supplicant and control alt F2 enp0 is free and .conf, and inside this there's gonna be a password of yours. You can just simply delete it and save the file. I'm not gonna of course show this because that wouldn't make sense because of the part I did earlier, but yeah. I'm gonna be right back. So there should be like a network thing, and there's gonna be the name of the connection and stuff, and, you know. So after that, you want to do WPA supplicant BI, and then you have to do the name of the device, which is enp0 as free -c etc WPA supplicant WPA supplicant enp0 as free .conf enp0 as free. Yeah. So it doesn't seem to work here, but if you follow the same steps, it will probably work. It's probably something with VirtualBox, or maybe I typed the password wrong, but it's usually gonna work. And to test it, you can ping something that accepts ICMP, for example, gene.org. I swear this works. So let's get into the actual installation part. Yeah. So, stop skipping over, stop skipping over, if you're skipping over right now, stop. Yeah, so, we're gonna do a CF, so, you can use anything here to partition your disk. If you're, for example, on Ubuntu or something, you'll do it. If you like gpart it or something, if you're compiling it from Mac OS X somehow, that you also can use some handy tool. On the minimal Gentoo installation CD, I think there's like two main programs that you can use, which is fdisk and cfdisk. I personally prefer cfdisk because fdisk is like you have to type in manually all the numbers and letters, and cfdisk is like more of a graphical one. That's why I prefer it. Yeah. So if you have multiple drives or something plugged in or something, you usually don't want to accidentally partition it or something, or accidentally partition the USB you're installing from. So Control C of course Control C on GNU Linux to stop, you know. So if you're on real hardware, I recommend dev SDA, writing that cfdisk dev SDA. But if you're on like me in a virtual machine, you can just type in cfdisk or fdisk if you're familiar with that software and you prefer it. So DOS, and actually if you ever installed Arch, you know that you have to make a big partition and eventually swap partition. Well, on Gentoo you need a boot partition. So I'm gonna make a boot partition right now. It's gonna be, let's give it like 230 megabytes. That should be enough. Primary, and the other one over here. Just give it the rest of your space and it's gonna be your root partition. You know, and if you're on other kind of operating system, you will have to delete it and make another partitions. Don't worry, it won't stop your system or anything. As you can see, if you're on a different operating system, that's because it's loaded into the RAM memory, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you fail something, you'll not be able to boot up again. That's one important thing. And if you have any partitions over here already, just press the delete thing and it'll delete it. If you're using cfdisk like me. So then you can just write yes. And you've just written all the thing to the dev SDA disk. So we're gonna quit. Clear. And now we have to choose the file system for our partitions. So maybe I should go with XFS. Let's just go with ext4. So I'm gonna do it to dev SDA1 as well as 2. And if you made a swap partition, I'm not gonna be showing how to make a swap partition. If you're interested in that, you have to look at the handbook. But yeah. So then we'll mount our root partition as mount Gentoo. And now we gotta download our, we gotta download stage 3 now, Gentoo stage 3. So there is a browser packed into this, and it's called Lynx. Lynx, if you don't know it, I already used Lynx before, but it's basically a terminal-based browser, and it's very cool. You can interact with stuff, you have some basic HTML interpreting or whatever, and you can download stuff from it. So what you can do is you can like links into gentoo.org and just download from the, just go to like downloads and mirrors or something and download the stage 3. But I'm gonna do it in a graphical browser on Windows if you're doing it in a virtual machine. And and I'm gonna just be doubly getting it. So I've never actually really done this, but I always just downloaded using links, but I feel like using graphical browser will be better here. Actually, I'll show how to do it with both. So just go to gentoo.org/downloads/mirrors, and you'll find all of the mirrors. So I'm from Poland, so I will choose a Polish server, but use pretty much whatever you want. I'm just using Poland, so it's gonna be fast. Go to releases. Choose your architecture. Over here I'm on AMD 64, auto builds. Choose whatever you want. I like hardened over here, and just choose the Tar XZ. So it's gonna be something like this, right? And what you can do is, in your Gentoo machine, I'm gonna switch to that real quick. And what you can do is, on your Gentoo machine, just type in wget and just type that link manually in, just HTTP, and you can do that. Or if you're downloading it from a different operating system, then you can just download the Tar XZ. Basically, casually. But I'm gonna show you how I do it usually, which is with links, which is that terminal-based browser I talked about. Because it's a pretty good way, especially if you're installing it on real hardware. You're not gonna be accessing like a browser. I mean, you can have something different open, of course, and you probably will. Maybe even this tutorial. It's better to just go to gentoo.org, downloads, mirrors. So, links. I wanted to show you how to do it on links, just in case you get kind of confused with how it looks. So just use the down arrow and scroll down to whatever server you want. And pretty much the same. I'll download from Polish HTTP server. I'll go to releases with the down arrow. I'll of course choose my architecture, AMD 64, auto builds. I'll go with hardened. And I'll download the Tar XZ. Save. I'm gonna give it a shorter name. And okay. And I'm not gonna waste your time here, so. Okay, so it did download. Let me just close my window. So, yeah. If you don't know what a tar XZ file is, it's an archive. You can just press Q. I like doing it all manually because I feel like a hacker, man. By using Gentoo, you feel like a hacker, man. Of course, that's not the reason why I like Gentoo, but yeah. So, tar XZs are archived. So I'm gonna just unpack it, but you have to give it some permissions. You can press tab to auto finish if you want, so you can type like staj and press tab to how to do, but it doesn't work with everything, of course. You have to give it these permissions. Include numeric owner. I'm just gonna check if that's correct, because you have to make sure it's 100% correct and you didn't misspell anything, or like, yeah, because sometimes if you're lucky you'll get an error. If you're lucky you're gonna get an error. but sometimes you're not lucky and it will just fuck up your system. I hope that was correct. So I'm not gonna waste your time here. I'm gonna pause. Okay, so it took like a minute or something more, but it unpacked. I'm just gonna one time more check if I did everything right. Yeah, and now we pretty much, we decide to ls. Where even am I? You have to make sure it's in MNT Gentoo. MNT Gentoo. I forgot. You have to actually CD into this. Well, I guess it's not that bad. You can move this into MNT Gentoo. And it should move everything. Actually, now it made a folder called root that has all the stuff in it. So you have to do mv root mnt gentoo, and now the same file Gentoo. How about I move root mnt gentoo slash? No, I don't want it. Okay, how about I move root into mnt or I can just move root gentoo. And I'll have a Gentoo folder, and what I can do, unpack this just an MNT Gentoo. Be sure to CD in there, but I have to do this stuff now. So in case you did it, I'm gonna go over it here. So our Gentoo. So I'm gonna just move mnt gentoo into mnt. Yes. cd gentoo. Man. Yes. Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll just move the stage 3 tar_xz into mnt gentoo, just like it should have been in the first place. Now I will remove Gentoo and I will just unpack this again to the right directory this time. So I'm gonna do tar_xbvf stage 3 tar_x. I can just press tab. X adders include equals star dot star numeric owner, and now we just wait like 2 minutes. So it finished. I hope everything's fine now. Yes, we got it, and there should be no Gentoo directory, and there is none. Great. We can remove the archive if you want. That's not necessary, but it's not necessary anymore because we already unpacked it. I hope I'm paused. Yeah, I am paused. So what we want to do is edit our make.conf and then enter the chroot. So editing your make.conf is a very complicated, and it's a topic that I won't cover in this video fully, but I'll just basically do what I usually do in my make.confs and talk a bit about what's happening. So I'm gonna VI into MNT Gentoo etc portage make.conf, or I can just do actually etc portage make.conf because you already cded into MNT Gentoo. So you're gonna have common flags, you're gonna have all of these flags. I don't really like comments, so I'm just going to uncomment this while speaking about it a bit. So make.conf is the one file. You have to go into Gentoo wiki and customize it yourself. It's not necessary, you can copy someone's make.conf, but make.conf file and portage in general is one of the reasons a lot of people use Gentoo. So if you don't want to just install Gentoo for the meme and actually use it, I recommend diving a bit deeper into it. But common flags. So we're gonna add one flag here, which is you can add more if you want, but you can do march, and and then you just do equals, if I remember this correctly. Yeah, I think that's how you type it. And you have to type in your sub-architecture, however it is called. If you have an Intel i-Core, it's probably Haswell. If you have an i5 from me, it's sure Haswell. And if you're on like x86, you have to check if your processor is like i386 or i486 or i586, i686, whatever they're for x86. I'm not really sure about that, but just Google it and try to find what is yours. Mine is Haswell. Just check, like, I don't know, is this CPU Haswell, or if you have to do something else. But I'm giving that up to you. And you have to do, well, you don't really have to do that, but by default it's gonna compile with one of your threads, like one compiler core, CPU core. And sometimes you want to give it a bit more, and that's why I'm gonna do make opts, and you can give a flag -j, and after that the number of cores. So I gave this machine 4 cores, so I'm gonna type in J4, and it's gonna be forced to use 4 of my threads. Just make sure your computer can handle it, because sometimes it might kinda die. So yeah, you don't want that. So we'll have this make opt J4. Yeah. And I'm also gonna add some use flags. Use flags are basically a very cool thing in portage, because like you can by a dash something disable something, and by typing in something without a dash you can enable support for it. So basically when you're building your packages, it's gonna check if that has support for something, or if you want to build with something, and it's gonna use that use flags and depending on your use flags, it's gonna give you different binaries on your computer. And Gentoo is a source-based distribution, so your binaries are gonna be locally generated on your computer, unless you download binaries, which would defeat the point of Gentoo. But well, one point from many points of why you should use Gentoo, or like why it might be a good system for you. But I don't want KDE support, GNOME, Qt4, Qt5. I want support for ELSA. I want the system D. Any iOS devices would be nice. iPod, no. Neon, no. XCS, CSS, FreeDF. Just simply. There's this one Gentoo page about use flags on the Gentoo wiki, and just choose whatever you want or no. I still haven't spent my time to dive into them fully deeper to make a full optimal configuration. I will definitely in the future change a lot more use flags, but for now I just do like very minimal, so it just doesn't take some time from like some bigger stuff. But list of all, okay, it's gentoo.org/support/use-flags. Like, I'm gonna type it in very quickly. gentoo.org/support/use-flags. Go on there and you'll have a list of use flags. I'm not gonna bore you with me actually setting up these. I'm just gonna cut here. So here are my use flags. Yeah, as I said, I have to actually spend some more time setting up them. I just did some major packages I sure want to use, such as Qt4 or Qt5 or like KDE or GNOME or like GNOME Keyring or Semantic Desktop. I won't be using that. But yeah, just remember, whatever you want to disable, just do a dash, and whatever you want to enable, just. So I'm gonna do Gentoo mirrors over here. So it's not anything necessary, I think, but or is it necessary? I'm not sure right now. But you can over here type in your favorite Gentoo mirrors and it will download from them. So the point is just make it from like whatever is from your country, so it's pretty quick. So I'm gonna go with HTTP, FTP, VAC, Trenet, PL, Gentoo. It's a Polish server, pretty much the only Polish server, and I'm gonna be using HTTP because why not? And yeah, so it's configuration just to pretty much like compile it and stuff, but definitely if you have more time, Google stuff, or like I don't actually use the Google search engine. Why do I keep saying Google it? Yeah. Sorry if I offended anyone, but yeah. So I'm gonna just write the changes and quit. I'm actually gonna one more time check if I typed everything correctly. I think so. Okay. I'll just quit. So once you got your make.conf, you gotta enter your chroot environment. So the way you do it is actually, let me bring my cool sounding keyboard. Okay, I got my cool sounding keyboard. And are you ready for this, guys? So Type a bit slower with it, but whatever. Nobody will care. I hope so. Make sure you type this in correctly. Now we're gonna mount something. Make sure you type this in correctly. I messed this part up once. And I think that's it. So now we're gonna enter the CH-root environment. And let's go. We did it, boys. We entered CH-root. Okay. Now, once we've done that, I am going to do source etc profile, some boring stuff, and I'm gonna mount the boot partition. I'm gonna do a merge WebRSync, and this is gonna take some time, so I'm gonna pause. Okay, so after you do this, we're gonna have an even longer merge. You gotta do a merge avudn with that capitalization at world, and it's gonna take, for me it takes around 10 minutes. I don't know what it'll take for you, but yeah, just type that in and you'll pretty much just wait. Yeah. Oh, also you don't have to do that A. That A only will make you prompt. So what you really can do is just vudn at world, and it will just not prompt you. Yeah. And you're gonna see something like this, and it's gonna compile with the stuff you put in make.conf. So if you put 4 cores and you give this virtual machine like more than, if you gave it like 5 or more gigs of RAM, or like you're doing it in real hardware, prepare to just hear your fan going, and yeah. The speed of this going is just dependent on your specs and stuff, and also your internet speed, but that's really a minor thing because most of the time it's actually going to be from compiling. As you can see, it's applying our settings, so it's going to do the March as well if you set up. Yeah, just wait. Also, if you gave a virtual machine like 5 gigs of RAM, and you have like 8 gigs of RAM like me, I'd recommend not using anything else. I'm just having my OBS open so I can record. But yeah, your PC can get a bit laggy during that part because this machine is gonna use a lot of your resources. It do be going though. I sure will have some compiling footage. Well, not really. Well, just a bit because I keep pausing. But yeah, if you know a YouTuber called Mental Outlaw, he does commentary on like that kind of thing. Compiling, I mean, compiling commentary. The CPU and RAM usage is going extreme. Actually, thinking about it now, I could have gave it a bit more RAM because I'm not gonna be using a lot of my computer. I'm actually gonna spend the time on my phone while I pause. So yeah, I could have gave it more RAM so it's a bit quicker. I only gave it like 4 gigs. I should have given like a bit more than 5 if that's what you have, like 8 gigs. But if you have like 16 gigs of RAM, man, just like give the virtual machine like, I don't know, like more than 10 gigs of RAM probably. Or I don't know, maybe just like 8. That's up to you. You can just do 8. Depends on your RAM usage. And are you gonna be using the computer while compiling or no? And the best thing is if you just installing this on real hardware, then it's gonna use all of your RAM, and that's great. That's great because it'll compile quicker. And right now it's gonna be compiling, I think, the third dependency actually. If I'm not wrong. So yeah, it definitely is gonna take a while. But that's nothing compared to like compiling a browser or the kernel. I would say even the browser. Yeah, compiling a browser is definitely worse. But doable. I'm scared. It's literally like this for a car. Oh, okay. It goes. Okay, it's the third dependency. Yeah. Oh my god, look at that speed, man. Look at that speed. Yeah. Oh yeah, look at that speed, man. It's going a lot faster now. I think that dependencies are smaller or something. Okay, if you see any warnings like purple or something, yeah. It's nothing bad. If you ever coded, warnings are not anything to really worry about. But if you get an error, if you get a red text, that's very bad. Either something is wrong with the packages you're merging, or you fuck something up, and I don't know, I can't help you, man. But that shouldn't happen, and that never happened to me, actually. All the errors I got from different packages I got later when setting up Gentoo, they were not related to the code itself and compiling, so like, that never happened to me. Yeah. Okay. 5th dependency, let's go. Let's go! 6th dependency. Okay. The last merge. Let's go! Finally. Yeah. That for me right now, it took like 20 minutes or even more. I don't know why. It usually takes a bit shorter. But okay. So, I think that's the last merge we have to do like that. Okay, we're gonna also have Gentoo sources before, yeah, and then just compiling the, okay. Pretty chill now. So, we're gonna emerge something, but this one's gonna be like real quick. Emerge config sys-libs time zone beta. And if you're on a different system, you can't do a merge unless you get portage on your system. So you'll have to find a different way of getting these things. Probably from that Gentoo repository, just get these things and get all of that working manual. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are people who did that. You can just try getting ported working on your system, but here I already have portage. Or no, wait, is portage inside that? No. Okay, never mind. Is portage inside stage 3? No. Or okay, never mind. But I'm gonna, if I remember correctly. Oh, bro, no. Before you do that merge, actually, you have to echo your time zone. Mine is Europe, Warsaw, into etc time zone. Like that. Mine's Europe, Warsaw, and then you do that merge. Yes, and actually, if you want to see all the time zones, you just do ls user share zone info. I think it was like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, and you can, for example, go into Europe. They have Warsaw here, and you just search if what is in zone info and just get this into etc time zone. Then you do that merge, and then you have to, if I remember correct, now we're gonna set up our locale. But the thing is, VI is not existent in the CH root environment for some reason, so we have to do nano. And if you use nano from the start, you can, yeah. If you don't know how to use nano, yeah. If you don't know how to use any editor, I'm sorry if you have to Google this, but if you, for example, have experience with Vim button and nano, it's Control X to quit, and you press Y to save it and enter when you're gonna exit. But what we want to do is we have to change it a bit. So I'm gonna change this to NUS dot UTF-8 or you can do PL if you're pausing. I like just having an English system, actually. Yeah. Or from whatever country you're in, but if you're able to watch this video and understand it, you should be able to use English as your the language for your system. Maybe it feels nicer for you or something, I don't know. But edit this, and I'm gonna change the NUS. And UTF-8, let's go with the standard, and Control X, Y, enter. And now we have to type in local-gen. It's going to generate the locals. And we have to do eselect actually, local list. And we have to choose the one we want. This is going to just list them. We want to list, and we want to choose whatever we want. So eselect a locale set. And I want, of course, my English US UTF-8. So I'm just going to do eselect local set 4. And now if I do list again, it will show I have 4 selected. Great. Once we're done with that, we have to do env update. And we have to do source etc profile. And now we're gonna do another merge. sys-kernel Gentoo sources, and let's go. And I'm going to the restroom real quick while this is gonna emerge. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be finished emerging when I go back. I mean, get back. Actually, while this is happening, after this, we're gonna compile our Gentoo kernel, and I'm gonna speak about it a bit because I would anyways, and let's just not waste my time now, or I don't know, just the you know, configuring your Gentoo kernel is a really, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's very time consuming, especially when you're doing it for your first time, because there's a lot of stuff you have to choose from, and you have to make a lot of decisions. You have to decide, will I use Bluetooth, or will I use audio, or maybe you have to change your audio controller or something. So I'm gonna show you how I configure my Gentoo kernel, and you can get kind of inspired by this and maybe tweak some settings, but yeah, you get the general point. So, that is a point why many people choose Gentoo, because you can compile, you can configure your own kernel that is optimized for one thing you want to do. If you want to do just browse the web, you configure it so it's only able to browse the web. I mean, that the kernel only has the things necessary for that, because Gentoo is for that. Gentoo, well, not exactly only for this, but it's a very good advantage of Gentoo. That's one of many reasons why I really like, and why Gentoo is my favorite GNU Linux distribution. But yeah, so if you want a very good kernel configuration that really fits you, you should just browse for it yourself and eventually search up on the internet some of the stuff. I won't say Google again. At least I will try not to in this video, but yeah, you'll have to dive deeper into that if you want a very good kernel configuration. But I'm gonna tell you one thing. After that, what we would do is start, just kind of configuring the kernel. But we'll have to choose our audio device at some point, and we're gonna use our second display because it has all of our. Oh, it is actually amazing. But I have my LED light that just and it switches actually when I switch this. That's amazing. I don't know why it does that, but. So, we're gonna use this just as we used it for our IP link. Now we're gonna use it for ALS PCIe, and it's gonna show our devices, if you know what's the PCIe is. Yeah. So, we can see our audio controller. It's like Intel Corporation, blah blah blah, audio controller. Or you could just do ALS PCI, grab my audio, and you should get the multimedia audio controller by itself, and that's what I'll do, so it's clean. And yeah, now we wait again. I'm gonna pause. So yeah, remember everything I told you about the kernel. Yeah. Okay, it's finished, and I also had some time, so I kinda made an OBS so it looks nicer over here. I kinda maximized. It's not really maximized. I just made this bigger. Anyway, so now it's time to configure our Gentoo kernel. The part everyone waited for. Okay, see. USR CRC Linux. Okay, everyone can forget. So, there will be a makefile here, as you can see. Oh yeah, I forgot I have to use nano. And we have this option called, how's it called exactly? It was something with config. It think it was menu config. But like, yeah, just do make menu config. And okay, it's it, I think. So right now we are gonna, yeah. So my setup. So I'm gonna change a couple things. So I want to change the kernel compression to LZ4, and you select something with like a space, and you double click escape to go back. You press enter to go somewhere, and to check something, just you press enter. So I'm gonna disable. Remember, if you need anything of this, just keep it, or if you see anything you would be interested in, keep it. But I won't be needing auditing support or these syscalls. Timer subsystem. I'm gonna do periodic timer ticks. I always just have to check. Double escape. And I'm gonna do what can I do here? I'm gonna go. Okay, so I won't be needing this. And for this, I actually won't be using anything. For kernel log, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it 15. Temporary person. I'm gonna give this one less. I won't be using RAMFS if you're gonna be using it. Just and then I want this initial RAM file system run this support, and I'm gonna change the optimization level. Actually, O2 can stay. And my suballocator will be. It'll just stay a slub, SLEB. Okay. 64-bit kernel, yes, I want that for sure. Processor type and features. Well, I won't be needing the MPS table. Nah. Change processor family core to Eurasian. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I need to change the processor family to, but that's just me. Okay, so processor family. So I'm just gonna change this to core 2 Eurasian because that's what I have. But you don't really have to change this. You can just go with generic x86-64. But if you have any other processor families, such as Core 2 New York Xeon, like me, or if you have like Intel Atom, yeah, most of the Intel CPUs are gonna be New York Xeon, but it's just optimizations for these processor families. You can go with generic x86-64 if you want, or if you're installing for x86, you're gonna have that different, of course. But oh, I didn't actually change it. So maximum number of CPUs. I never will use 64 cores with that. I would say, especially for this virtual machine, 4 cores will be the max. So you just enter the number, of course. Or if you know that you're gonna be updating like your CPU, upgrading it, and you don't want to recompile your kernel or reconfigure it or something, you can just change it as more, whatever you're thinking about. I mean, I'm just doing this, so yeah. So I don't need the multi-core shader support. Scalator. Yeah, Scalator. Why did I... No, I'm... fail game that just says Shader. Or is it Shader? I think it's Scalator. I'm not sure, but a reroute for broken IQs? No. Turn off AMD MCE features. Nah, check my performance monitoring. Yeah, if you got an AMD processor, just disable this and just go with this and this. I feel this is good for me. So I don't need the AMD microcode loading support, so it's gonna be by default on Intel and the AMD over here microcode loading support. But you know, if you have an Intel CPU, just only check this, and if you have an AMD processor, just uncheck the Intel one and keep the AMD one. And if you have ancient loading interface deprecated, I mean, I'm not even entirely sure what's that, but if you have that, I guess check it. If you have it, you probably know what that is. And if you want it, disable yeah, I won't be needing new memory allocation. I want to disable that. I won't need low memory corruption checking. You can check this if you feel like you're gonna have low memory corruptions, but they are very rare these days. I'm gonna do MTRR cleanup. And I want to check both one here. Can I change this? Just check both as one. I don't need into memory protection keys. And I won't be running EFI. If you will be running EFI runtime, then you'll have to keep this. I'd rather keep this if we're getting even real hardware or something, but if your PC operates on UEFI, I think you need this. So, like UEFI, yeah, but So, you have the key exec system call and kernel crash dumps. So they're like kinda protecting you. So if you're gonna be recompiling your Gentoo kernel a lot, you want to have that enabled. And if you will not recompile your kernel, then just disable them if you're not gonna be doing that often. Usually I like upgrading my Gentoo kernel. I do it pretty often, or I like try different configurations. So I usually keep this enabled, as well as it's not a loss for me a lot, so I don't lose a lot, but here I'm sure not gonna be recompiling my kernel, so I don't need that for the tutorial purposes. I will build, oh, this is also for this is also some kind of protection. It's gonna build a relocatable kernel in case you do something wrong. If you keep compiling, you end up writing your kernel. But yeah, I'm gonna disable that for the sake of this video. Is that it here? Yeah, I think so. So, over here I'm gonna disable suspending and hibernation. If you want like hibernation, then keep it. I don't like it. It will just kinda it's like the thing that will hibernate your system and suspend your RAM, you know, when you're not near the computer or something. If you like that kind of thing, sure. I never liked it. I always just, it was so annoying for me, so I'm gonna disable it. But there are a lot of people who like it, so like, yeah, that's my personal opinion. So this, I have an Intel processor, so I'm gonna enable CPU idle driver for Intel processors. If you have an Intel processor, I recommend checking that. But is there anything I want to change here? just feel like this is not everything. No, I think that's actually it. Might be wrong, but yeah. If you see anything there that you don't like or like, remember, change it. And now I'm gonna actually skip over that straight to virtualization. You can mess around with this. And host kernel acceleration, I will change that to a star. So I'm gonna press the space 2 times for because I want host kernel acceleration for VirtuoNet. And if you're gonna be running some virtual machines like me, because I'm on the OS dev, then well, you want to be checking that. But if you're gonna, for example, be running Windows 10 VMs, if Wine just quite doesn't work out, and for example you have to use Windows 10 for like your job or something, or some personal use, then check that. If you're not interested in any virtual machines or like virtualization, don't check anything here. You can then check everything if anything's checked. No. Loadable modules support. I'm gonna disable forced module unloading. I won't be forced to do anything. Just kidding with that. I'm gonna enable the block layer. The next thing I'm gonna disable debugging info. I don't need it. So the next thing will be networking support. Yeah, you can change something in the binaries options if you want. I want everything from here. Actually, in networking support, I'm gonna disable amateur radio support. But I'm gonna... So here's Bluetooth. Sometimes I use something through Bluetooth, but that's not often. Sometimes I just don't build my kernel Bluetooth, and I do that often. Because I don't have many devices that use Bluetooth. My parents have a lot of them, like Bluetooth headphones and shit. But I don't really use Bluetooth. And here you have your wireless settings. You can mess around with this. And just disable whatever you'll not be using. So I'll disable wireless, or can I don't know if you can just casually disable this. I don't know. But now I'm gonna go into device drivers. So I won't be using PC card, of course. If you use the check it, you know. And I want to go into block devices, and here's the number of loop devices to pre-created init time. I'll just change this to 0. I don't want some loop devices to just be wandering around by default on the init. If you want that, keep it. And SCSI device support. I'll enable asynchronous SCSI scanning. And I'll disable multiple devices driver support. And I'll disable Macintosh device drivers. I won't be inserting any Macintosh devices or playing around with them, so I won't need this for sure. And then we have input device support. And I'll be using a keyboard and a mouse. I won't be using touch screens. And I probably won't be using a gamepad on this virtual machine. I sometimes plug in one of my gamepads. It's like I have like a GameCube USB gamepad and like a N64 one. I don't often play with them, but sometimes if if a game, what did I say, girl? If a game has some like little control, say sometimes plug in like this GameCube controller or something, but. And then we have graphics support. I want to change. Maximum numbers of GPUs. You know, if you have 16 graphics cards, you're a cool dude, and yeah, keep it at 16, but I'm gonna set it to 2. And if you're on a VM like me, you want to enable the VirtualBox graphics card with a star. So just double click space and yeah. And we're gonna have sound card support, and this is important if you want sound on your computer, which a lot of people definitely want, unless you will be using Gentoo in like a VM inside Gentoo, for example, and you don't want sound there because it's only for like compiling or something. I don't know. Or if you're just installing Gentoo on a laptop to compile some of your stuff and you won't need sound, or you just don't need sound for daily use at all, You just communicate by writing mails and code or something. And you don't really watch videos or join like video conferences and stuff like that. Maybe you don't want it, but getting that away, you usually want sound. I'm gonna go into Advanced Linux Sound Architecture also for short. I'm gonna go into PCI sound devices. And here is why I said it's important to do that ls PCI and check what is your audio device. Because over here you will have to check it. So mine's like Intel Corporation, blah blah blah. I'll check what starts with an I. Intel AC90s. Yep, seems like this. So I'm gonna double click space to check it with a star. And yeah. It needs to be the same as here, remember? Of course it will not have the same name, but you have to find something familiar. And an HD audio. There is I'm gonna do build Realtek HD audio codec support, and I will do build CPDA HD audio codec support, and you have. So I'm done with the device drivers I need, and I'm gonna go into file systems, and so I'm using the exe4, so that's even the default here. I'll check debugging support, why not? And that, why not? I hope it won't take too much time compiling, and why not? Actually, this is just for the sake of it. So yeah, I can keep this. So I won't be using any miscellaneous file systems. I'll usually stick to ext4 and XFS. So network file systems. Let's just completely disable that because I won't use this in my life, at least now. So I'm gonna go to kernel hacking and RCU debugging. The stall timeout for me is gonna be 3 seconds. And the last one, Gentoo Linux, seems good for me. If you want to use systemd, you can check systemd instead of OpenRC. I used to really like systemd, but now I definitely prefer OpenRC. I mean, in my opinion, actually, systemd is a lot easier with like setting stuff on like initializations, at least in my experience and stuff. But I prefer OpenRC in general. But systemd used to be my favorite. And I'm pretty much done configuring my kernel, and be sure if you want to play around this play around with this more and you have more time than just following this, basically. Just go through each of them, go through like every option, search them up on the internet and stuff, and just get your kernel just how you want, because it's a very important thing in Gentoo that you have your own kernel that is yours and it's made for your computer usage, you know. So I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna press enter. I want to save this as just .config. Leave it like that. And we're pretty much done. Exit. Oh my god, that took us some time. I think like half an hour or something. But yeah. And now we're gonna do emerge LZOP. So if you chose in the beginning, actually I'm gonna show this. On the real beginning, if just like me in the general setup, you chose the compression mode instead of like gzip or something. If you chose LZ4, you'll have to emerge it. And probably with most of these, you'll have to emerge them, just not the default one. So like, I like LZ4 because it's fast. It doesn't compress very well, but it's fast. And it's good for me. So I'm gonna emerge it. Snap orange LZ4. And it's gonna calculate the dependencies and it's gonna emerge it. So I'm gonna pause the recording now. Yeah, be right back when the emerging is done. It's probably gonna take around 15 minutes to, or something, I don't know. For me, it really depends what you're gonna have on your end if it comes to you. You know, I really like looking at source code compiling. I don't know why, there's just some weird satisfaction when all of that stuff is compiling. Okay, so it took a bit of time, but it's still nothing. So we're gonna merge sysapps PCI utilities. I don't actually have to do this, I think. One of two. This is not gonna take long, but I'm gonna pause anyways. It took like 30 seconds, if not less. But yeah. And the other thing is I'm gonna emerge netmisc dhcp cd. Oh no, actually we've done everything. DHCP CD is for later. So now here's the mean part. Here's the part everyone complains about. Well, not really complains. They're just making meme out of it because we're gonna compile the Gentoo kernel, and it's known for taking forever. Is it really gonna be forever? My friend's computer with a very fast processor, he gave his machine like 5 gigs of RAM and like 4 cores. It compiled in like, I don't know, 30 something minutes. It really depends. And he also had fast internet, but so if you have something like that, like 30 something minutes, I guess. Expect your PC fan go brrr. For me, it's probably gonna be, because I'm having OBS open and all that stuff, it's probably gonna take around 50 minutes, but I don't know. So you have to type in 3 commands. You can type them one by one, but I like to do it in a single command, so then I don't have to type in anything. So we have to do make, and then you would have make modules install. And then you would have make install. but I'm gonna do it in a single command using semicolons in a single line, so it will do all of these. Make sure everything is typed correctly, so it's not gonna do that, and it's the minimum to get your kernel in there working, basically. And after that, we'll just have some basic configuration. We'll have some program installing, and we're gonna unmount everything, reboot, and we pretty much done installing Gentoo. But this part is gonna take, it's the longest compilation you're gonna have. You're actually the internet speed doesn't matter here, because all of the stuff you have is already locally on your computer. So it's gonna be fully dependent on your, it's not gonna be dependent on all of the internet speed. That's how I should phrase it. Modules underscore install and make install. That should work. Okay, let's go. I hope I typed that in correctly. Did I spell modules right? I think so. I hope I did it right. But yeah. Now this part, as I said, it's gonna take a long time. Even if you have a fast computer, it's gonna take some time. So I'd recommend go out with someone, go out with a friend, or go outside, I don't know, brew yourself a tea, go jerk off, whatever you do. Or, I don't know, study. I would recommend not to do anything on your computer if you're installing it in a virtual machine or like a different system. So you have the memory all dedicated to this. I could have actually gave it more RAM, but whatever you do, just do it now. If you have like any homework to do, anything to study, do it now. I remember I did a lot of studying and things when I was compiling different stuff. I remember the first thing I really compiled, like a big thing, was compiling GCC, perhaps. I think that was like the first big thing I compiled, but yeah, I remember studying geography while that was happening, and just enjoy your time. And I'm not gonna bore you now, so just, yeah, do whatever you want while this is happening, and I'm just gonna cut to the chase here. I'm gonna pause the recording, probably do my maths, studying, or whatever. I don't know what I'll be doing. Okay, apparently it took me almost 40 minutes, or maybe 40 minutes, I'm not actually sure. I think like 40 minutes, and it was nothing for you. I managed to do a lot of stuff. I studied maths, I talked with my mom, I talked to people on Discord, and did stuff. So, we got our kernel. Let's go! If I didn't misspell anything or something, then we should have a working kernel now. Yay! But still, we have to do some stuff. And it's like, I wouldn't call it, we still have to compile our like bootloader and stuff, and do some configuration and unmount everything and do stuff. We're not gonna be actually installing anything important or something, or setting up X or anything. I'm gonna probably have a part 2. I said on the beginning that it's the part 1 of installation. What I really meant to it was, it's like part 1 of installing and setting up, from what you can see on probably the title of this video, because I'm probably gonna have like part 2 or something, which is gonna have like installing X server, about Gentoo, some stuff. probably like many useful things, or like ALSA utilities, or some recording software, I don't know, but yeah, that's gonna probably be in part 2. I don't think there will be a part 3, perhaps maybe like a bonus eventually, but I don't think so. So we have to edit our fstab. So I only have nano here, so we'll do nano, and basically delete this, but you don't have to. I'm just gonna keep it like this. I'm too lazy to delete this. So we're gonna do our boot partition, boot, ext4, whatever file system you chose, defaults, no time, without any spaces or anything, 0, 2, okay, no. If you're a degenerate, you probably got the joke, but SDT2, and we're gonna have that just as root, ext4, defaults, no time, 0, 1. Actually, we don't need the defaults. And I'm gonna do a tab here so it looks nice. Yes, so this looks nice, and I'm gonna put a space here just so it looks nice. Yeah, so we're just mounting this as our boot partition as the root boot, and ext4 is the file system. We're gonna default not time 0, 2, and then just as the root partition. We're going with the root partition. So Control X, 1 enter. So I did it in nano, and now it's time for our host name. So just edit nano, or yeah, I think it's the only editor you have in CHRIT. etc contact the host name. I'll just set your host name. I'm gonna set it to like, set it to whatever you want. I'm just gonna call it tutorial. Okay, so I'm gonna just do tutorial. I actually went to eat dessert, but like, yeah, that was just a cut. So host name, it's just gonna be tutorial. Do whatever, just don't name it like a username, because I remember one time a friend of mine was installing Gentoo, and he named his host name like a username kinda, and then he didn't know what to name his username, and then he wasn't satisfied. So of course it's changeable, but like, man, just set it something that isn't like a username. Don't name it like Jack. Like, name it Jack's computer or something, but Jack is more like a username, and that's how we're gonna be naming our user. But so we gotta get internet working once we actually get our configuration working. So you can type in IP link or ifig, that's up to you. We did IP link before, and you have to just nano into etc conf.d net. It's gonna be a new file, but don't worry. And you have to type in config, and here the name of the device, ENP0S3, and remember it's not low, or well, you gotta be used to, you know, looking at this kind of stuff. But anyways, ENP0S3. And we're gonna set this to DHCP. That should be good enough, I guess. So we're gonna do cd etc init.d. I can't type. And we're gonna edit this file called. Actually, we won't edit anything. But you have to cd into this, and now we're gonna just do ln-s net.low net dot name of your device rc update add net enp 0 as free default nano etc hosts. So you can configure the hosts file however you want. You can actually block ads or redirect different sites, like different IPs or something if you want. The etc hosts file is actually more powerful than a lot of people imagine. I'm gonna use the configuration here that is on the Arch Linux wiki. Yeah, because I just feel like it. You can also configure an IPv6 address, but you'll have to search for that. I'll be just using IPv4, and I'll be using the Arch Linux configuration, which is just, I'm gonna add my local address, or if you have a static address, like stable address, you put it in here, and you can just do your username. We didn't make a user yet, but I'm gonna name it like toot. And then you type .local domain, and then you just do toot again. And another thing, I mean that's pretty much it. But what I like to do is redirect to the void TikTok, because I don't like TikTok and I never want to see TikTok in my existence, at least on this installation. Or I mean, I only have TikTok on my phone, but I don't really watch it or anything. I only have an account there called like Gentoo Enjoyer or something like that, because my friend really wanted me to, so I so I made a new email, because I'm not giving my main one for like TikTok or some shit. I'm not trying to offend anyone who likes TikTok, but most of the people who do TikTok know it's a piece of shit. But it's sometimes funny. It's sometimes a funny piece of shit. But yeah. And it's sometimes a good way to spend time when you literally have nothing to do with your existence. But it's really, I only watch it for like a second or something. Well, okay, not a second, but like literally like 2 minutes. Am I just trying to defend myself that I'm not a TikTok watcher? I'm not really, but yeah. So we're gonna make a user. Actually, first we're gonna set root password. So do it for whatever you want. I'm gonna go with I1 like free cheese 5. I don't care about this password, just for like poses of this video. I like cheese. And Gentoo actually requires it to be secure, so it gives you like 3 chances. So be sure it actually follows the rules it gives you, because in many GNU Linux distributions you can just set your password like boy or something. And here you have to actually, you're forced to make a secure password. I don't know if that's for the users too, or maybe just the root. I'm not sure, but yeah. So we're gonna add a user. I'm gonna get it to group users, real, audio, and video as band bash, and just the name of the user, toot. Just give this an actual like username and not your host name. That's what I would recommend. Set a password for it. I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go here with you, 1 like 3 cheese, and you have to put big letters, I think, as well, and like 3 numbers or so. I'm not sure. Oh, you like cheese, you 1 like 3 cheese. Finally. So we've got the user, and theoretically, actually we didn't even have to create the user. Theoretically, before that we could just unmount everything and like reboot if you're on real hardware, but shut down if you're on like a virtual machine like me. But we're not gonna do that yet because we're gonna do some useful stuff, like just like we did with the creating a user, setting the root pass. Actually, you have to set the root password or else you're not gonna be logging in, I think. Like, I don't think just pressing enter works in Gentoo, just typing in admin or root. I'm not really sure, but I think. I guess so. We're gonna emerge app admin sys k log d. And this one is gonna be pretty short. I don't think I'll even have to pause. I'll just pause for the sake of the video's title. Yeah, it was like very quick after I paused. So we're gonna do RC updates. Add sys k log d default. We added the service to default. Great. Emerge sys, and I'm just gonna do mlocate. I'm also gonna emerge net. Yeah, this actually one you need if you want to get internet actually. Netmask dhcpcd. We could actually, no, we couldn't actually reboot because we didn't do like the bootloader yet. I was wrong. If you actually tried rebooting, man, I'm sorry. You might have to do everything alone. Well, not really. I think most of the stuff would still be there. We would just kind of have to get into the hard drive or something, using the installation medium again for like another computer or something. But yeah, it still would be possible to recover. Yeah. But I'm gonna do that, and yeah, I'm gonna pause now and wait for these two to merge. Okay, that was also pretty quick actually. And I will also emerge doas. You can emerge sudo. I just prefer doas because, first of all, doas is not like bloated just like sudo, because you won't be using most of the stuff from like sudo. And DOS is more secure, and in my opinion it's also like simpler to configure actually. So I won't be even installing sudo on this, but yeah. I never installed sudo in Gentoo. I always went with DOS. So now we gotta edit etc dos.conf, and you just type in permit no pass wheel, or if you want someone to give the password, you just do permit wheel. I don't really care about security at all, even with this, so I'm just gonna go with no pass. And now you usually want to be a cool kid, you know, show off your epic Gentoo system right after the installation. If you saw the memes, you always have the Gentoo logo, you know, and if you don't know what that's called, it's called NeoFetch. Yeah, I use it on like different distributions. It's a great tool to show like information about your computer and stuff on the command line. So I'm gonna merge NeoFetch, and is that gonna run, or is it? Yeah. So it shouldn't take too long, but I'm still gonna pause. Okay, literally went so fast right after I paused, like 5 seconds. I don't know. Yeah, you can now become a cool kid right after the installation and send it on there /Gentoo and be like, hey guys, look, I installed Gentoo, now give me app votes, or just whatever, have a memory, have your the memory of your first Gentoo installation or something. But we're gonna emerge. By the way, if you didn't know that, actually when we're emerging packages, we're downloading them from Portage, like the Gentoo repository, as well as we're compiling them. We're really just compiling like source code. I mean, downloading the source code. I'm gonna emerge. So you have to get used to Portage and emerging packages and make.conf and stuff. But emerge. I think verbose sysboot grub column 2. Yeah, that should work. And this is actually gonna take a while, like a couple minutes. So yeah, you have some dependencies and stuff, so I'll pause here and yeah, just wait.
Look at that velocity! It to be going at...
Okay, please go in extreme velocity.
Yes, it going in extreme velocity. Velocity!
So, Grub finished compiling. I guess now what's left is to do grub install on our hard drive. This is not gonna take a lot of time. Yeah. So you can change your grub configuration. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna do grub config boot grub cfg. It's gonna output it there and done. We're gonna have the default one. Now we can exit cd. hope I didn't fuck up anything. That would have been bad. Okay, let's just unmount. The command for that is umount, not unmount, remember. My friend actually typed that wrong. Dev SHM BTS. That should work. And umount or MNT Gentoo. And I think we're done. I think we might actually be done. With part 1, installing the base system, but we gotta shut down. So we're gonna do shutdown key now. Yeah, so I am going to now go into settings and remove our installation medium. Okay, so just do reboot if you're on real hardware, and you can just unplug the USB you're installing from. But, you know, if you're doing it on a virtual machine, you have to remove that disk like that. And you can't do it during runtime, so you have to do it like this. No, not here. I just gotta... Okay. So it's gonna say grub loading, welcome to grub. And here you choose pretty much whatever you want. Of course, Gentoo, Genie, Linux. And have we achieved Gentoo? Have you successfully gotten the meme OS? Yeah. Okay, nothing bad so far. I'm gonna just try getting this. Actually, I'm gonna crop. A lot better. Why didn't I do that from the beginning? So, tutorial login, toot, you like cheese 5. Yes! And now we got it, boys! You did it! You successfully installed Gentoo. You now are part of the family, part of the meme. You successfully managed to install Gentoo. You haven't given up. You had the determination in you. I don't know what it was, but you did it, man. I'm proud of you, no matter who you are. This is the beginning of your journey. Let's go Control Alt F2. let's log in into root I like for cheese 5. We got root working. Let's try pinging something. We got the internet. Grace, can we merge a package? Can I merge Vim? Over here, can I do as? Can I do as nano edc portage make.conf? I can do it. I can do it, ladies and gentlemen. You managed to install Gentoo. You managed to configure the kernel. You managed to get through all the installation, through all the boring parts, and got even internet working if that's the case for you. If I hope nothing happened on your end, but yeah, that covers the part 1 pretty much. There is gonna be a part 2, which is gonna be setting up X, a window manager, and stuff like that. Perhaps like a browser, some Gentoo tips, and basically just like setting up the system, you know, because you're not just gonna use this and you might still struggle. Because in my opinion, installing Gentoo is not the hardest part in setting up Gentoo, like the full setting up, kinda, because the installation itself is actually not that hard. Like, you just type in some commands, you just make some decisions, and you have to have patience, of course, and some good specs. Well, you don't need to have the good specs if you have very good patience, but yeah, in my opinion, the hardest part is actually getting the software you like to work, and working around with, working just with Gentoo in general, because Gentoo is definitely not a distribution meant for real GNU Linux beginners. It doesn't have like a GUI installer, it doesn't come with like any desktop or anything. You basically make your own system pretty much. You compile the kernel and you configure the kernel, and you're really doing a lot of stuff here, you know. So be proud of yourself. You managed to install Gentoo. Isn't that amazing? Don't you feel like you've really accomplished a lot? Because if you don't feel like that, feel like it, because it's all like Gentoo. Nice. But yeah, be sure to stay tuned for part 2, and I'm actually gonna just pause and also wait till it finishes compiling, you know, so I can show you that Vim actually successfully merged. Also, be sure to play around with the kernel options and the make.conf file and like the use flags and stuff like that, or different compiler flags. Be sure to try out different stuff with that if you really want to have like a solid Gentoo system that can do your daily work, get your job done, you know, just do everything you need it to do. You know, once you fully set up Gentoo, it just feels very natural. You just start up, maybe you have X by default, or like you launch X or something, and you just type in what you want and you just get everything done just like you want it, and you're gonna get used to it eventually. Gentoo is not really that hard to learn or that hard to install. It's not the easiest thing to install. Definitely, like this actually without the cuts and everything took me I don't know, like 4 hours so far. But in my opinion, it's definitely worth the time. Because you'll have a very minimal system and you'll have only the things you need and only the things you really do on the computer, and it's gonna be damn fast, you know, and stuff. So, so I'm just gonna show you Vim successfully merge. You can of course merge anything you want that is in the Gentoo repository, but I'm out here just Vim. See, it successfully merged. Also, I'm assuming you know Linux. This entire mini video series or so, it assumes you have some, at least minor experience with Linux, you know, and the Linux command line. So I'm gonna do, yes, how much do I like Vim? And I'm gonna just type in congratulations, dear viewer. You managed to install Gentoo. And I'm just gonna escape. Yeah, I'm gonna save this like install.gentoo. And now if I cat congratulations, dear viewer, I managed to install Gentoo. As you can see, everything went correctly. You can use doas. Also, I think you can't do a merge as a normal user. Like if I try to merge AV crossdev, it's not gonna work properly. If I remember it correctly, it's just gonna yeah, so you have to just do doas, and if you get doas working correctly, then everything should work. So yeah, that's a very, very minimal Gentoo installation, and I hope you just enjoy the system. You play around with it and stuff, and be sure to stay tuned for the part 2 of installing it, setting up Gentoo, so I can show you how to set up some software and useful things. So I'm just gonna over here do this. Fine. This is gonna display all my files, and I think this screen will be a good way to end the video. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for watching for the entire thing and just installing. Actually, you know what would be better? Control-C to stop this command for some reason, but neofetch. Thank you so much. Yeah, 32 megabytes, as you can see, of RAM. Guess it's very minimal. And yeah, thank you, and see ya.